Rumor has it, if you touch your tongue to a PoE cable, it's like a 9-volt battery. By the time we're done here, we will see how PoE functions on a Cisco switch and verify the current power usage port by port. One thing you'll find out as you dive into PoE is that it just happens. Just about every switch when you pull it out of the box has PoE enabled. So I want you to see that as we plug in some devices, see them power on. But then I want you to see how we can go onto the switch and see how much wattage each one of those devices is drawing. Now you might remember back in Arizona, we actually had 2 switches that had wireless access points plugged in. Now just about 90% of the time, those things will be powered via PoE. I also want you to see that behind me on this little shelf, I have a phone. I actually purposely unplugged it from the switch because this can be something that we can plug in and get some power going to this device, see how much wattage a phone and a WAP actually draws. All right, I'm back over to our Arizona pod. It looks like the natives have grown restless and resorted to human sacrifice. But down here on switch number 2, down at the bottom, is where the WAP is plugged in. I'm also going to take this phone. Let me see if I can get it in the screen. Let me zoom back just a little bit. There we go. Got my phone right about there. And I'm going to take that and get that connected to the switch. Right, let's just grab a port right here. And, actually, one of the things on the back of the phone, you'll typically have the PC port. I don't know if you can see that right here. There we go, a little light. Right here, it actually says PC below that port and LAN port right here. The LAN is where you plug in the cable, which will be the incoming. The PC allows you to attach a PC or some other device that's co-located in that cubicle. Now you can see behind the scenes, it's a little dim. Let me zoom in a little bit. Well, I'll show right on the screen. You can see the phone has begun to power on and go through its boot cycle. But right here on the switch itself, you can see that the port has gone active, sort of. The port is amber because of spanning tree. It takes 30 seconds to go live and active, but it's still sending power down the port so the device that's attached to it can start booting. Now, one of the things that we'll find, and I'm just going to mention this right now. There it goes. It just went green. One of the things that we'll find is oftentimes spanning tree can cause timeouts on the devices that are attached because 30 seconds is a long time in today's terms. Devices can actually outboot that timer. When we get into a skill dedicated to spanning tree, I'll show you how you can speed up that timer substantially. So I'm now in my connection to switch number 2. Let me hit the enter key a couple times and get logged into that switch. And I'll do the one command. This is pretty much the only command that you'll need to know to verify PoE. I'll do show power inline. I'll hit the enter key and you can see right up top, it shows the number of available watts for this switch. That can play a substantial role because a lot of times you might have a ton of devices to attach and devices that use a substantial amount of power, and you might exhaust the power supply on your stackable switch. You can see right next to it how many watts are actually used right now and the number of watts remaining on the switch. So budget your power carefully. Now right here you can see on Fast Ethernet 1/0/3, just like the network diagram said, it's recognizing this kind of device is attached, an Air LAP 1142, and it dictates the number of watts that this device is using. It also dictates the number or the class of device that this is. Now this is an 802.3 AF, the original PoE standard, where there's only really 3 classes of power defined. Class 3 consumes the entire 15.4 watts per port. Now, truth be told, the 15.4 watts isn't actually reaching that wireless access point because of the loss on the cable, but the switch doesn't account for that. It just says I'm supplying what's coming out as an output from the switch is that 15.4 watts. Let me go back up here, do the show power inline again, hit the space bar, and let's look at the other device. You can see it's recognized as a Grand Stream. That's the model of phone. It doesn't show it here, but it's a GXP 2140. Again, a class 3 device consuming 15.4 watts. Handy to be able to verify that. The only other command I want to show you at this point is going into global configuration mode, accessing one of those interfaces, Fast Ethernet 1/0/23. And I'm going to show you the power inline, and you have the option to say never or auto. Now you can manually choose the consumption of the device if you know it's a lower wattage device and the switch isn't detecting accurately what wattage it's actually using. You can adjust it down to a lower class of device. But the biggest thing I want to show you right here is the ability to use power inline never and auto. Why do you think it'd be handy to be able to turn off the PoE to the switch? Or the individual port on there? I typed it in and pressed the enter key just to give you a hint. A lot of times, a device may freeze, like a wireless access point or an IP phone. You're remote, you're not anywhere in the vicinity. It's really handy to be able to go in and turn the device off by cutting the power to the device and then turn it back on so that you can remotely reboot that device. I'd like to be able to say I rarely use this, but this is something I use all the time. One of my first steps in troubleshooting, hey, I've got a problem with X, the WAP isn't showing up or the phone isn't working, is to go in and boot cycle the device, power cycle the device using a command like this. And just for the record, you really won't get shocked if you touch your tongue to an Ethernet cable, but you probably shouldn't do that. You've now seen how PoE functions on a Cisco switch and verified the current power usage on a port-by-port basis. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.